Jumpin' In on Manx Radio.
With Howard and Chris Kane.
Hello.
Good evening.
And welcome. And here we are. Is it that time again, you ask yourselves? Yes, it is the answer to that. It's 9 o'clock, it's Saturday night, it's not Crackerjack. Of course it is Jumping In with myself, H, and Chris, the best in modern and contemporary jazz.
Yes, indeed it is. And welcome along to this week's Jumping In. And there goes another TT. Yes, it's all over bar the shouting, the bands, the people. Oh, and yes, the racing, obviously. Well, other than that, a typical TT in many ways. The week started full of promise with glorious sunshine before plunging into thick fog, rain, high wind, bringing back childhood memories of sitting with Dad on the benches at Braddon Bridge at 6 in the morning, clutching a flask of bottle, some cold bacon butties, awaiting the often non-start of the practices. Still, all the more reason to stay in, crank up the hi-fi, and enjoy some great jazz. So what new records have you broken this week, H?
On the new front, we've got some Other Worlds, the latest from Joe Lovano and Dave Douglas, and we'll have a special with Joe Lovano, funnily enough, next week. So a bit of a trailer ahead of that one. And I'm going to have a double birthday. I'm not going to say any more at the moment.
And for me, well, we're in the moment. We have a new beginning. We leave in an orderly fashion and start quite naturally with the Awakening Orchestra.
guys, Jesse Lewis on the guitar.
Awakening Orchestra there with the three-part suite, The Adventures of Dirt McKillicuddy, taken from their 2016 album Interlude Atticus Live. The 18-piece band has been described as not quite an orchestra and not quite a big band. What it is, however, is a collection of some of the finest young players on the New York scene, under the leadership and composer and arranger Kyle Sonia, who describes his music as postmodern third stream music. Who am I to disagree? And this release as Interlude Atticus Live because it falls through two albums entirely of his own original compositions, whereas Atticus Live is an arrangement of a large ensemble of guitarist Jesse Lewis, who we heard there, his solo project Atticus, where he played virtually all the instruments. Still, however you describe it, I think this is pretty good music, and we heard Jesse, as I said, on guitar, and trumpeter Jonathan Powell, who I've featured a couple of times on the show before with his new Sanger band, soloing on that piece.
Very nice. Why is it not quite a big band? Surely it's 18 players playing jazz or whatever. It's a big band. 18 surely is pretty
it's
big.
a large ensemble, isn't it? So they say not quite an orchestra and not quite a big band. I think because of the mixed instrumentation and because of the style is not traditional.
I see. Not big band music per se.
Yeah.
Okay. Very enjoyable. Yeah, nice stuff indeed. It is Jumping In, Chris and H with you this evening, of course, for the next, just under an hour now, isn't it? 50-odd minutes. So no time to waste. On with another new release coming out from the Dave Douglas. I don't know how many albums he brings out a year. You can't keep up with them, frankly. Before you've bought one, he's got another one out. It always seems to me, one way or another, on his Greenleaf label, amongst other things. He's done several now with Joe Lovano under the Sound Prince, as they've been calling it. The latest one's called Other Worlds, as usual, with Joey Barron on the drums. Let's hear a track from the latest, which is looks quite spacey from the CD cover. And this one is called Sky Miles. I've been quite enjoying that one. I haven't really given it a thorough listen from beginning to end several times. I've heard it through once or twice, so yeah, still getting to grips with it. And we were talking the other day, really, whether people listen in the same way. And like when we were sort of much younger and you get LPs, and I know vinyl's still going, and you would listen more intently and listen to it from beginning to end, or, turn it over and listen to both sides. And there's temptation now, I suppose, with streaming or whatever services people are using to pick and choose and drop in and out in the same way. But yeah, enjoyable in any case. Like I said, Dave Douglas, very prolific. Joe Lovano is no slouch when it comes out to bringing stuff out. And I think this is about the fourth Soundprints album off the top of my head. There might be more than that, but certainly not fewer than that, I wouldn't have thought. The band lineup changes a little bit. They've still got the wonderful Linda Mahan-O on bass, Joe Lovano, of course, on saxes, Dave Douglas on trumpet, Lawrence Fields, a name you don't hear a huge amount of, on piano, and again the ever versatile and ever busy Joey Barron at the drums. Worth checking out.
And we'll be hearing a lot more from Joe Lovano next week, of course, in a special dedicated to a recent chat we had with him. And yeah, what you're saying, it's interesting because, of course, Maria Schneider was saying very much that she felt that composers would put together a piece, certainly a suite or an extended work, where the intention was to listen from start to finish through, and playlists and Spotify and all these other streaming services where you can buy single tracks have kind of taken people away from that to an extent, I suppose.
True.
Now, pianist Rob Barron may not immediately ring a bell, but London-based Barron is often found heading up the rhythm section for the likes of Jackie Dankworth, Stacey Kent, Claire Martin, Dave O'Higgins and Steve Fishwick, to name but a few. And when not busy touring, he has a parallel existence as a film composer. However, he is recently released from this moment on from Ubuntu label is unashamedly straight ahead, and as you'll hear, none the worse for that. Here's Loverman. when he's not busy taking the seat as house pianist at Ronnie's, it's good the pianist Rob Barron can fit in sessions like this. That one, of course, Lover Man, a song originally written for Lady Day, and James Sherman by James Sherman, and was given a lovely treatment there with drummer Josh Morrison, bassist Jeremy Brown, and of course Rob Barron at the keys. And thanks very much to Ubuntu for sending us that one.
Marvellous indeed, yeah, real swinger, that one. Worth checking out, particularly, as you say, if you do manage to get to Ronnie's, and who knows, we might get to Ronnie's at some stage again.
Hold your breath, but we hope so.
Before we all pass this mortal coil. Yeah, we're going to stay on the keyboards, in fact. And two birthdays for the price of one, and both big notables. Sadly, neither of them with us anymore. One went a few years ago, far too young. One went after a relatively long life, and a very, very busy one, but only a few weeks ago, realistically. I'm talking about Jerry Allen and Chick Corea.
Hi, everybody. I'm Nick Bertsch, composer, pianist, producer from Zurich, Switzerland. Looking very much forward to be on your radio for Jumping In on Manx Radio. And you might hear some of my music. Thanks a lot, Howard and Chris. This comes directly from the Zen Funk main station.
stuff. The sadly now late, great Chick Corea, who left us only a few weeks ago. But after an amazing career, and goodness knows there won't be anyone he wouldn't have played with, and his music will live on forever, I think, on various guises. And one of those guys, it's played in all sorts of forms, isn't it? So that had that Spanish style, he had the Return for Forever, he had sort of the electric phase, he had his acoustic side. I mean, it seemed to be nothing he couldn't do. And a man who really celebrated his music right up until the end. And before that, that was with Bobby McFerrin, by the way. I'm sure you recognise Bobby McFerrin in Duo in New York a few years ago. And before that, Jerry Allen, who sadly died far too young, several years ago now. And again, her music lives on as well. A series of albums she did with Charlie Hayden and Paul Motion. That one just called Segments on the DIW label. And the track was the track we heard. Oh yeah, Law Years, Ornette Coleman track.
Lovely stuff. And next, another fantastic release from Jazz in Britain, the label who seems to have found the key to the collections of so many great British players' archives. And happy birthday to the managing director, John Thurlow. He says it's a big birthday. Well, aren't they all, John, these days?
50,
they seem to
40,
be. Who can tell? None better, however, than Don Rendell and Ian Carr, often described as the UK's answers to Miles and Coltrane. Here they are with the ominously titled Blue Doom. Blue Doom, sounding a great deal more upbeat than the title suggests, from Don Rendell and Ian Carr Quintet and the recently released Blue Beginnings album on the Jazz in Britain label. This particular set came from a live recording in London in 1964 from the collections of the late Neil Ardley and Dave Green. A fantastic set, this, in what was essentially their Shades of Blue album, recorded the same year but live. And whether they were emulating their heroes is debatable, as I think they're very much their own men. And in fact, Ian Carr's The Definitive Biography of Miles Davis is just that, showing his great respect for the Dark Prince's talent. And if you don't have any of the Carr Rendell recordings, or indeed Ian Carr's nucleus, jump in anywhere, and I promise you won't be disappointed.
You won't indeed. There's so much good stuff on that Jazz in Britain. Something else coming out all the time. And as you say, the keys they must have to the vaults of some of these private tape collections. Terrific stuff. You just wonder what is going to appear
next.
But it's I haven't been disappointed by one yet. Surefire winner. This one just literally dropped into my bag. I was actually putting some stuff away and this one fell out into my bag. I thought it must be a sign. It's time to play it. I haven't played it for a long time. It's I think it's under the name of Kristen Osgood, the drummer, but it actually features, of course, as the main man, Sam Rivers on tenor. It's Purple Violets. The track is called In Search of Black Benny. I always remember that horn got hammered, I think, in the Penguin Guide for some reason. I thought, I don't know, they didn't like Kristen Osgood's drumming at all, which I thought seemed perfectly all right. And I thought, in a way, what was he doing with someone as good as Sam Rivers? Anyway, I enjoyed it. Purple Violets, that one's called. Sam on tenor, Ben Street bass, Kristen Osgood on drums, and Brian Carrott on vibes on some tracks as well.
Very nice indeed. Well, that's about it for this week's Jumping In. Next week, another special focusing on saxman Joe Lovano, who we were lucky enough to catch up with recently. But for now, we just got time to fit in a track from the latest release from John Law and his quartet Congregation, a regular fixture on the London scene since the 80s, with some 40 or so albums to his name. I mean, busy man, including a fine interpretation of Bach's Goldberg Variations. From his latest, Congregation plays Configuration. We'll leave you with Processional. See you next week.
Enjoy the sun if you can find it.